I have a confession to make. I have a huge cock on the side of my van. Now you may be wondering, why do I have a giant black cock on the side of my van? Well, we'll get to that. Now you may have or you may not have noticed that some time has passed. Well, that's what this episode's about. But first, Dragon Fruit Bowl, please.
Dragon Fruit Bowl, you got it. All right, man. Appreciate you.
Thanks, buddy.
All right.
I'm bummed. That girl was cute. She should have followed me. She should have followed me. She should have pulled me over and said, "Hey, I like you. You seem nice." You're like, "You're right. I am the nicest man you'll ever know." So you may have or you may not have noticed that some time has passed. And by the way, this is, I love this. This is a Dragon Fruit Bowl. After COVID hit, everything kind of went south for me and pretty much for a lot of people. I ended up staying with a lot of friends for like several weeks, and it wasn't because I wanted to. I wanted to get back to van life. I wanted to do what I loved, but quarantine with everything being shut down, and frankly, I had no work. I was doing some editing here and there from previous jobs that I had done and other people had done, but work was extremely slim, and I needed help, basically. As much as I wanted to get back to van life and do all the things I wanted to do, it turns out that life had much bigger plans for me. So the first thing that happened to me was the brakes failed. Now, while I was in Big Bear, the brakes actually caught fire on the way down the mountain, which was terrifying. Then, whilst on my way to the mechanic shop, I turned on my air conditioner and it broke, which was also a disaster. That cost me about $500, not too bad, but unfortunately, not even 2 weeks later, the engine overheated to an insane amount. It was about to blow, and the radiator blew. And then about 3 weeks later, it blew again. So in total, all of my repairs cost me about $1,500, which really hurt the bank account. So basically, I was in Joshua Tree, I was in Yucca Valley, I was in Morongo Valley, I was in Palm Desert, Palm Springs. I was kind of all over the desert and Desert Hot Springs as well, staying with random friends here and there. And then eventually, finally, right around April-ish is when I headed out to Huntington Beach, which is pretty much where van life started for me. After getting out to Huntington Beach, I met a girl. And we did it off and on for a few weeks here and there. Actually, it was really probably the most rocky relationship I've ever had. So I'm pretty well convinced that Scorpios are not a good fit for Leos. At first, everything was perfect. It was great. I was at the beach. I was where I wanted to be. It was everything I needed it to be. I was happy again. I legit felt happy. I was in my happy place. I was in the van. I was loving life again. I was in the sun, having fun. It was great. It was summer. It was beautiful. The girls, the beach, everything. It was everything I wanted it to be. Then I got sick. And it's really the most unusual and crazy experience I've ever had in my life. In fact, it's so crazy, it's gonna get weird in here. I recall Central Park in fall, the way you tore your dress. What a mess, I confess. So what started out as just a regular night of just no sleep turned into something much worse. Now, I'm not dealing with just one phenomena, I'm dealing with several phenomena. Have you ever heard of the hum?
In British Columbia, Canada, Dr. Glenn McPherson says he heard a strange humming sound in his home. At first, he thought it was an appliance.
Ultimately, I cut the power to the entire house, and the sound got louder.
Then he discovered he was not alone.
This is in fact a worldwide phenomenon, and I'm calling it the worldwide hum.
Check out his Hum Map Data project. To date, some 17,000 civilians and scientists from around the world who call themselves hummers have reached out to him, saying they heard the same thing. McPherson thinks the mysterious hum could be caused by low-frequency sound waves that sound like this.
So in my experience, basically what this hum did, it's an audible sound. It sounds like a diesel engine off in the distance just running, and it's just this constant wah, 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 but it sounds mechanical. It sounds like an engine, and it never goes away. You can hear it less during the day, but it's there, ever present all the time. And obviously at first it didn't bother me right away, but it clearly did after about a week in the van. And honestly, noises don't typically bother me. I like to sleep with the TV on. It puts me right to sleep. So white noise really isn't an issue for me. But something about this sound really affected me in a very negative way. What started to happen was that my ears would vibrate. And it was very strange because I remember feeling like what felt like this sort of pulsating force field on the outside of my ear, and the ear hairs would just like stand up, and it was just so irritating, and I couldn't get rid of it. Even if I covered my ears, I still felt it. And on top of that, not just having my ears vibrate, but my entire body vibrated. My entire body felt electrified. It was just the most unusual experience, and I absolutely could not sleep in that. I had tried everything, and
nothing was working.
Even though my body was exhausted, even though my body was tired, I couldn't sleep. And what's worse than that is the fact that when I did finally get to sleep, my body would jolt myself back awake. So it's almost like my body was in this 24/7 fight or flight mode, and there was literally nothing I could do about it. I was going crazy. One of the other things that started to happen to me, or kind of around me, were all these explosions. So we're like mid-April, and there are countless explosions going off, especially at night, all over the place. Everywhere I went, there wasn't a single place I couldn't go where I couldn't hear or be near a very loud explosion.
A series of startling booms are being reported in northeastern Sacramento County, and people say they've been hearing these noises for months.
Now viewers are asking us to get answers.
The tranquility of this Fair Oaks neighborhood is being shattered by some mysterious nighttime noises.
It's instantaneous. It doesn't last long.
Homeowners being startled by loud booms in the late evening hours.
It's like a sharp popping sound, like pop!
Kaboosh. Not like a gunshot, but like an explosion.
It's a real low pitch boom.
I cannot make that sound. It's almost like a gunfire with a bass drum.
One explosion was even caught on this Ring security camera. The noises are loud enough to set off car alarms.
So I looked it up. Turns out there's something called sky quakes. Basically, they don't really know where it comes from. They just know that there are these explosions that happen 15 to 20 feet in the air, and nobody can figure out where it's coming from. Now, there have been some hypotheses, there have been theories about what they think it is, but nobody's been able to prove exactly what the hell is going on. Posting this on Facebook, I received a lot of people talking about experiencing exactly the same thing. So right there, I knew I wasn't the only one. However, it wasn't just happening in Huntington Beach. This was happening all over the country. So I knew I wasn't the only one. I wasn't going crazy. There wasn't something wrong with me. I also had a lot of friends who are very, very spiritual, very psychic, into tarot and everything, like me also, but we'll get to that another time. They all said, well, you're ascending. And I'm just like, ascending, huh? I don't know if I buy that. So apparently I'm experiencing this ascension, and it's causing me to have vibrations and not sleep and go crazy. So while all this was happening, I was dating my ex. And, well, I mean, it wasn't all bad. It wasn't like the worst. Actually, I think it was really legit like the worst relationship I've ever had. However, she totally saved my ass because I didn't have anywhere to go. So one of the things that she helped me out with is she introduced me to a guy by the name of Paul McKinnon, who is a sleep hypnosis therapist. And so she had me listen to this app while I had taken the NyQuil, and then that is what put me to sleep, because just trying to sleep normally in the bed didn't work. I was still feeling the after effects of this vibration experience that I was having. But despite my best efforts, the relationship just did not work. We butted heads all the time. There was very rarely anything that we got along with. She was constantly picking fights with me. She was constantly angry at like the smallest, minute little details. And sometimes I do admit that it was okay for her to be angry, but there were other times where it felt like she was just constantly attacking me. So I left and moved right back in my van and had exactly the same issues again. So it was back to the vibrating, back to the hum, back to the explosions, and back to no sleep. And once again, I started going freaking crazy. So at this point, I'm thinking it's a possibility that whatever's going on is somewhere in this van. And I'm kind of like losing my mind. I'm starting to kind of lose my cognitive thinking. Processes aren't working quite right. But I still have the energy to make it out to this guy's house. He's like an hour drive away. I heard about it from a friend on Instagram that he could take a look at the van. So I get there, and he pulls out his voltmeter, and he pulls out all his toys, and he's doing all his things, and we're just chatting. And he doesn't find anything, like nothing out of the norm, nothing that would be dangerous to me. He did think that the grounding wire by my solar probably needed to be regrounded, so he went ahead and did that for me. He actually did a good job. I was so frustrated at the fact that I didn't discover anything that I was, like I said, I was starting to lose my ability to think straight. Even with taking vitamins, I just couldn't function right, so I went to the emergency room. And that was terrifying. Now, if you haven't been to the ER lately, I wouldn't recommend going. A lot of COVID patients, a lot of people like literally dying, and it's not pretty. However, I went there, they gave me antidepressants, really didn't do anything for me. I just wanted like some kind of special sleep aid that was just gonna knock me out. But they weren't gonna give that to me. They just sent me on my way, and I just had to figure it out. So at this point, I'm freaked out because the last thing I want to do is drive. I'm just like, this is a nightmare. I can't sleep in my own home. And then something crazy happened. Then an old friend reached out to me and he said, hey man, I heard about what's going on with you on social media and I really want to help you out, bro. I'm going to get you a few nights at a hotel and hopefully that helps you out. And man, did it ever. I was totally taken back by that. And honestly, I was so afraid and fearful, and I was thinking, I'm going to have to sleep on the streets. I can't sleep in my van. What am I going to do? And then he calls me, and then I have this like burst of energy suddenly, and it's like nothing happened. So I get the hotel, and I sleep great. I slept great. I only had a little issue the first night, but after that, it was like nothing had happened. This whole time that I was there, I was just like, okay, I can't sleep in my home. I've got to figure this out. I need somewhere to go. So I reached out to my friend Trevor in Palm Desert, and I was like, dude, I need a place to stay. I just need a little bit of time to figure out what's going on with my van. Do you mind? Is this something that you could do for me? He's like, yeah. And I'm like, thank you. So I've been here since April 27th, way longer than I expected to be here. Thank you again, Trevor. I appreciate that. He gave me the time I needed to work on my channel. That was kind of the one thing that I had been pushing away for the longest time. So having this opportunity to not only figure out what's going on with my life and van life, but also take the time to work on my channel. I edited 7 months of footage that I had shot over the last year. And so now you're up to speed with where I am in my life, and I can tell you what happened when I got here. Believe it or not, I actually still experience the hum, I still experience the vibrating, I still experience the explosions. But, you know, not to the same degree. After the first few nights of being here, I got to sleep like it was normal, like nothing even happened. But believe it or not, 4th of July night, whole bunch of explosions going off. It was crazy, and that was probably one of the worst nights I've had since then. So even after all of this, I still really don't know what the hell it was that was causing all of this. However, I also think that there is a small possibility that I might have some PTSD because of this whole experience, because of how I seem to carry it over into other homes and locations that I've stayed at, where after a while I could then sleep again. So I'm just kind of in this big giant I don't know phase, which really sucks. Last week I went to Huntington Beach and I had another trip. And I was out there for 2 reasons. One, I wanted to see if I could sleep in my van again. And 2, I had some work, which is literally like the first shoot I've done since March. So it's been months since I've had like legit work outside of the home, which has been really, really nice. So I took the trip to Huntington Beach, and the first night I only slept like 4 hours. And I kind of had some of the same issues, but the vibrations were nowhere near what they were before. And then the next night, I got about 5-6 hours of sleep. So I actually improved, which is a good sign. It means that there's a possibility that I don't have to sell my home and that I can continue to do van life and continue to do this channel. And so yeah, there's like this glimmer of hope. So like I said in my previous episode, I have no intentions of leaving van life anytime soon. This is what I want to do. I worked extremely hard to get to van life. Believe it or not, it was not easy for me to do this. I went through a lot of struggle and financial ruin to get into van life, and that is for an entirely different episode. But I promise I will share all of those things with you in the future. So honestly, after this whole insane, crazy experience, I kind of very strongly feel like this was by divine purpose. Like, I feel like I just wasn't supposed to be back in Huntington Beach yet. I feel like I had to come back to the desert. There were certain things that happened. Not only did I obviously go through this awful experience, but it taught me about, I guess, don't be afraid to ask for help, because sometimes things are just beyond your control. Sometimes things are completely beyond the goals you set for yourself. I learned that strangers, random strangers, and even friends that weren't friends yet that became great friends, all came through for me when I least expected it. And it's not because I was undeserving of such a thing. It was just the fact that I didn't expect it. A lot of the times, I didn't even ask for help, and people still came through and helped me out. And it's kind of one of those things where, you know, now that this has happened to me, I can't wait for my opportunity to pay it forward to those people in the future. So everything happens for a reason. I don't particularly love being in the desert, especially for as butt ugly hot as it is right now, but I'm in a great place. I'm in a safe place, and I have no regrets. So now for the question you guys have all been waiting for as to why I have a very large penis on the side of my van. Actually, it's both sides. It's not just the other side, it's this side as well. Well, let me explain that to you. If you look right here, there's 2 layers of insulation is what you're looking at. I used foam insulation for a lot of my insulation when I was doing this van build. And I thought it was a good idea to paint the reflectic side black so that it would be more stealth and you wouldn't see the reflectics. And I thought, okay, this will be a great idea. But the problem is, living in the desert, it's really hot here. The average is 110 plus degrees. So when that heat hit this black part of the reflected side of the insulation, it shrunk it down into what you now see, which is this big, very large, but well-hidden penis on my van. I actually had a guy come up to me, he says, is that art? It's like, yeah, that's what it is. I have every intention of fixing this when I can afford it, and there's really only 2 options. One, I can just tent right over it from the outside, or 2, I pay somebody to remove the window, and then I redo the insulation, and then put the window back in. Frankly, they're both expensive. I don't have the finances or funding to do that yet, but I promise you, when I get the money, I'm gonna take care of that. This is my friend Trevor.
Hi, I'm Trevor.
Boop. I'm gonna kill you. Jesus Christ. Huge. Huge. Ladies, if you would like to see it, I could probably meet you in the back alley on 1st and Phoenix. So I'm pretty sure it's nobody will really see. I mean, we can go behind the dumpster, the brown one with the little thing on it. Doesn't matter.